Your iPhone 5 recap today on App Judgment.
iPhone 4S.
It's called the 4S? Really? They didn't call it the 5? Well, that is some bull. We also will talk Photoshop for Android and the Samsung Galaxy S2. This episode of App Judgment is brought to you by Thrillist.
Welcome to App Judgment, your source for mobile application news and reviews. I'm Graham Hancock, and today in the studio we've got Zach Miner, David Prager, Chris Jennings, and Jackie Talbot. We're here to talk about the iPhone 4S.
That is
right. A big day for Apple.
I think the upgrades to the iPhone are, aside from the fact that there was no form factor change in the shape of it, I think it's exactly what a lot of people expected. More processing power,
right?
Better camera, and then obviously like upgrades to stuff like the batteries and stuff such to support that.
Yeah, and the prices seem totally fine based on all the upgrades in the software that we're seeing for iOS 5. Like, what is it, $199 for the 16 gig, 32 gig is $299, and then 64 gig is $399. So the prices aren't even that outrageous, I think, with all the new features that you're getting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that they also, like, the big thing, at least from what I've been able to see, is responses in the media and responses from people is they're upset there's not a new shape, and they're upset that the name is not iPhone 5.
Well, that is no, but honestly, yeah, everything that matters, I feel like the things that don't necessarily matter are the things that people seem to be getting upset about, like the shape and the...
And so I think, you know, I don't want to keep talking too much, but I mean, it's great to have capabilities of doubling adding the A5 processor in there with 2 gigahertz processor chips, with separate graphics processing that I think they say up to 7 times more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, you know, making a camera, shooting 1080p video are the main selling points to me anyway, and having an upgraded, more capable smart device.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about the 2 antennas that they're going to have on
they've improved the antenna, which some people could read into as fixed the antenna.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an antenna device, or it's a system where it'll switch antennas based on which one's going to have the best signal quality, or it'll bridge the two. So that's that's interesting in that I'm wondering if people that have been complaining about drop calls with the iPhone 4 that's going to fix the problem, or was there no problem to begin with?
Probably not.
Well, because it's also a carrier thing.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, like what was the last time someone brought up AntennaGate, right? I mean, that kind of like
that died off.
That was a thing for like a month, and then no one really cared, right?
Yeah,
so your service is still going to be shitty.
Depending on who you have,
I've always been an AT&T user, and I've hated the service in San Francisco anyway, where you drop calls all the time. One of the reasons that I've stayed with AT&T, and not that I'm a globetrotter too much, but I like the ability to know that I can use my phone overseas all the time. However, based on what Graham just mentioned, the 2 antennas, you can have Sprint, you can have Verizon, you can have AT&T, and you have those GSM capabilities overseas.
So those are the radios, not the antennas. So they're now all iPhone 4Ss have both GSM and CDMA radios, meaning that they can work on both GSM and CDMA networks. Like Sprint and Verizon are your CDMAs here in the States, and
what they call a world
AT&T is your GSM, right?
Anyway.
So, but previously, if you've had a CDMA phone like I have, if you travel overseas, it's a pain because pretty much everywhere else in the world operates on GSM networks. Yeah. That's been one of the major pluses of AT&T. You go somewhere else, you pop a new SIM, and you're kind of ready to go. Now, no matter what carrier you have here, you're pretty much set overseas.
So I'm excited to switch from AT&T now.
So the next big hardware upgrade that the phone got is 8-megapixel camera.
Huge, bigger megapixel camera, and they added a whole new lens on it and bigger aperture and everything, so the camera is supposed to be pretty...
Do you think that's a big enough reason to upgrade your phone, the camera that's inside it?
Yeah, if you take enough pictures, I think that absolutely
so.
is.
I think it's worth it.
Especially with the video as well.
Right, yeah, the stabilization, everything that they added. I feel like people, I don't know, there's a few things that people really, use their phones for, and obviously people care about their cameras.
And I just think it's another thing to push people over. So if you have more processing power, and then you also have, the better aperture, letting in more light, a better lens to translate the light, and the ability to have an extra lens to make it sharper is what they're saying. I think that's definitely a big selling point. And it used to be, back in the day, no one ever had a camera on their phone and no one wanted it.
Yeah.
Everyone basically forced you to have a camera because no manufacturer would make a phone without a camera. Now it's like, it's expected. There's no such thing as a phone without a camera.
Exactly.
And more people are going to realize that they can take, photos of good enough quality that they might be able to ditch any other camera they would have, with the exception of a DSLR.
Yeah, that's the hope. Like for any point and shoot, you wouldn't want to have like a bunch of the same sort of capabilities on your phones or on your cameras.
I assume pretty much that this camera that's on the 4S is pretty much a point and shoot shoved into a phone now. It's competing with some of the best point and shoots out there, although not in the megapixel area, but in the glass and the sensor and the aperture size. I honestly think that if you're a photographer, you end up taking a lot of pictures with your iPhone, this is a big reason to get the 4S.
And I think it's great that also, in all the announcements today, everyone's known that iOS 5 is coming, and it's got a lot of amazing new features that will apply to the iPhone 4 and older models. And I think one of the new features that's available in the 4S that's not going to be available is this new voice technology, translation technology called Siri, which I happen to think is amazing that they're developing the technology and making it better. I don't think it's going to affect anyone's life, and it's not going to be usable in the real world to a great extent that's going to just change everything. I think it's just going to further technology for later applications. There's no way I'm going to be using this while running down the street.
What do you think, Chris? I mean, there's been integrations of voice control, this kind of stuff on. There's been apps that do this.
Yeah.
Siri was a big one. It was on iOS devices dating back to like 3G.
Well, first off, I'm surprised that they kept the name Siri. Why didn't they Apple up that name?
Everyone thought they were just going
to
to call it iOS Assistant, but they said nope, it's called Siri.
Yeah, which I think is
that must have been a big wheel and deal kind of thing. On
it's kind of good that they're giving props to the original app developers there and keeping that name.
Yeah.
But as far as the voice controls go, I'm an Android user, and I've been using the voice controls on the Android for quite a while now. Like they came out in version 2.2 of Android, and so I've been doing the alarm setting, the calls, emails, and when you say note to self, and it emails yourself. So these things have all been in Android for quite a while now. So I've used them quite a bit. I think that they're pretty helpful.
I'm ready to be corrected. I just don't anticipate really using it extensively. Again, I think it's going to enhance people's lives a lot later. And it's cool that they're applying so many different variables to the algorithms of should I wear a raincoat versus what's the weather like. But I think it's very limited in how well, note to self is amazing, and being able to like send a text message while speaking, while driving, that's pretty cool.
I think I'm going to use that the most, sending text messages, dictating emails, that kind of stuff. But it's also connected to Wikipedia and Wolfram Alpha. So like if you need to ask your phone like, how many pounds are there in a stone or something like that? Like you're going to get that information from your phone.
Or how many pixels in the 8-megapixel camera photo?
I mean, to be honest, this information, it's available on the internet, and you can find it, without Siri or some voice activated thing. So I kind of get what you're saying, but it's I don't know. Do you think it's because of the hardware issue?
Oh, no, I think it's a science project because of the fact that in order to turn it into to react more like a human to the expectations, to be able to interact with it very consistently and have it be able to identify enough accents and variables and thought processes and outside noise and such like that, I personally think it's a science project. And I'm glad that it's one that they're entertaining. I just don't think its real world applications are going to be life-changing right now.
Oh yeah,
I think we're kind of a different scenario because we're all super comfortable with our phones. We know pretty much everything that our phone can do. We need to go look up something on a map. Real easy, go to our map application and type it in. There's a lot of people who aren't comfortable with that level of technology and might prefer to just say something and have their phone interpret it.
Well, and an additional problem with that is that they're sometimes limited by some of their partners. So they're partnering with Yelp, so you can say, I want to find Italian restaurants in San Francisco, and it'll find them. I want to look up how many molecules in a mole, and Wolfram Alpha will tell you that. If you want to find out, certain things with what your friends are doing through, say, Facebook, there is no integration with a Facebook, and there's probably tons of other companies, maybe not as big as Facebook, that they're not integrating with right now. That's going to limit the potential results and capabilities of what that Siri voice-activated thing is able to parse and give you as result data.
Yeah, so I think, time will tell whether or not this catches on, so to speak, or is something that everyone's going to use. I personally think that I don't like typing. I think I'm going to use it to kind of, in situations where I'd rather not type and just and dictate stuff. But so yeah, iPhone 4S. It comes in 3 models now. It's not just 16 and 32. They now have 64 gigabytes. The 16 gigabyte version is $199, 32 gigabytes $299, and 64 is $399. Pre-orders start October 7th, which is this Friday, and it's going to ship the week following that. Also, big news, iOS 5 is going to go out to everybody October 12th, and iCloud is going to come online as well.
Not everybody. iOS 5 is for the 4 and the 3GS, right?
Right. There are features that are only going to be in the iPhone 4 that won't be in the 3GS.
And when the iPhone 5 does come out, this operating system will probably work on the iPhone 5.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
I would think so, yeah.
Probably is a
Let's
good
just
guess.
jump forward. But Apple
So it requires
also,
Android.
Apple also introduced a couple of apps to go along with this. We know that Apple makes apps on occasion. They made these new card apps so that you can now take a picture and get a card mailed physically to anyone. And that's
So they can emboss it also, right?
Exactly.
With, you know,
Well, there's an existing company called Postagram where you can take a photo and have it send a
Exactly.
picture and a physical, snail mail postcard to somebody, and I guess the card app is a competitor to it.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Very,
The next
very
big,
true.
the next big app that they released was Find My Friends, which to me, when I heard this, I was like, "This is kind of cool." It's exactly pretty much Google Latitude.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
But I think what they're doing is they are using their Find My iPhone sort of stuff, where Apple knows where your iPhones are. Like, I mean, everybody's iPhones are. So now they can link that up. Well, if I add my friends' names to my iPhone, where I can find out where their iPhones are, or where they technically are. So it's kind of it's using the Google Latitude model. So,
Privacy is the best.
yes. I assume that all of this Find My Friend stuff is opt-in, but
Of course, yeah,
it's
I'm sure there's
still
a
it's
connection,
probably
like
going to
an
ring some
agreement on
alarm
both
bells with
And will
privacy
ruin
folks. that's
so
for
many
sure.
relationships and make some.
So Zach, you recently got an iPhone 4 on Verizon. Is this enough to upgrade?
No, it's a really compelling phone. I love the speed upgrades. I love the camera. But my iPhone 4 is super fast. I'm really interested in what's going to happen next week at Google's Nexus Prime event, because I think Apple disappointed some folks and kind of left the door open for them to blow some people out of the water. But we'll see.
If they changed the shape of it, I would have gotten one. But since they didn't, no, I'm kidding. I'm gonna get it because I want. It's twice as fast. It's got a better camera, and I can use it overseas without having it to be AT&T. So I'm gonna do it.
Awesome.
I'm not sold on this. I'm sticking with Android. I agree with Zach. I think next week we're going to know a lot more about Ice Cream Sandwich and the new phone offerings from Google and Samsung. So I haven't seen enough to make the switch. I've been using the voice functions for a while. Google's going to make them better, I think. So a lot of this functionality is already in Android, and if it's not, it will be soon.
Myself personally, I am switching to Verizon, and I was waiting for the next thing. I didn't really care what they were going to come out with. I just didn't want to switch to Verizon and get a phone that was going to go out of date a week later. So I'm definitely going to get this phone. And I think if I were staying with AT&T, I would probably upgrade too. I've had the iPhone 4 for a year now, and I think I'm ready to have a phone that's twice as fast. So, what about you?
I probably agree with Chris and Zach. I was an Android user for a while and just recently got the iPhone 4 on Verizon. I feel like it's totally good enough. The camera is exciting to think about, but I don't think I'm going to throw some money on it. I don't think it's just worth it.
The one place that Apple didn't iterate on today was the display, right? Because they said that no one matched the Retina display that iPhone 4 had. So now, I mean, if Apple doesn't release the iPhone 5 for another year, then that gives all these other manufacturers plenty of time to develop one.
Absolutely.
Now, they didn't do it already, so maybe they won't, but they certainly left the door open on some higher quality display technologies.
Should we speculate on iPhone 5 ship dates? I mean, time now to start that.
Yeah,
right?
well, is it
let's
going to
start
be,
it.
I mean, so that's actually a big question. Does this mean that September is now going to be, or October is the new
if they're
iPhone? Or is it
resetting
going
the
to go
clock?
back to June, you know? We'll see.
Very true. Coming up next, Jackie and I will run down some new apps for both iOS and Android to hold you over until Thursday.
And Annie will be back on a special Friday edition of App Judgment this week. But first, let's thank our sponsor, Thrillist. You know how you have that old friend who hooks you up with cool new brands before anyone else has even heard of them? Well, Thrillist is like that, but for cool new stuff to do and places to go. You want to know about a Star Wars burlesque show, a beer garden that screens 80s flicks, or a new restaurant with a sushi robot? Then sign up for Thrillist, a free daily email that sifts through the crap to find the best new bars, restaurants, events, and services. Whatever it is, they promise it won't suck. So go hit up Thrillist.com/AJ and you'll start getting Thrillist's sweet, sweet knowledge right away. And don't forget, there is an app for that. Thrillist is available on your iPhone, iPad, or Android device.
The mobile world was more than just iPhone 4S news this week. Here are some noteworthy app updates and releases. Smarter Contacts for Android released late last week, and it looks to be a robust network organizer. Cholingo's action-packed shooter, Pixel Ranger, is now in the App Store for those of you who are into the retro game look. The Washington Post is now in the Android market, and most of the negative reviews consist of "It's about time." And the big news this week, Adobe releases the new Adobe Photoshop Touch, as well as a whole suite of apps for Android tablets.
And beer drinkers rejoice! Untapped is finally a native iOS and Android app, and as soon as they fix some network issues, it's going to be Mauricio's favorite check-in service. Textpansion for Android is your new text expansion app, loved by our friends over at Lifehacker this week. And Squee! Katamari Amore for iOS released late last week, and it's free and amazing. Serious Sportsball fans will enjoy NBA 2K12 for iOS. It is in the iTunes App Store today.
And another little bonus for Androiders, the Samsung Galaxy S2 4G is available for $149.99 from Amazon Wireless. Check the show notes below for more information.
And make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and don't forget about GetGlue. Check in now.
We'll see you on Thursday.